Hello, everyone. This is Shannon Port, and I welcome you to the season premiere of the Holy Womanhood Podcast, Season 2. We are meeting live today for the Magdalene Mysteries, Part 3, on the Virgo new moon. This is the first Virgo new moon of 2 that will happen within the next 30 days. We have 2 new moons in Virgo this year, and so it's very, very special. And for all you that are gathered here that are connected to this sign, this is a really potent time for this sign. And we'll be talking a lot about the archetype, the feminine archetype of the Virgin. So I'm just getting back after being away for a bit. I just want to make sure that we have everything. It looks like the sound is on and the camera, but I will be checking the comments regularly today just to make sure everything's going. It's so good to see you. I can't tell you how happy I am to be here. This is the Holy Womanhood Podcast, and my name is Shannon Port. I would like to introduce myself for season 2 and really take a moment to state what this podcast is about. We are going to be here much, much more often for this season 2, and there's a reason for that. In the first season, I started, and then Venus went retrograde. I'm ruled by Venus on every level. I have a lot, so she's really my ruler for the archetype for this work, even for the Art of the Feminine platform. In this lifetime, I've come to do the work of the Venusian mysteries, and so Venus went retrograde, went over my North Node along with Saturn. And literally, the day that the Venus retrograde started, I began to enter into what was part of a really big initiation for this work. And I had mentioned to you that in the past year, I moved from the East Coast to the West Coast after 25 years. And I knew when I relocated that I was here for a reason. And I knew that there was a huge initiation coming, and I couldn't see what it was. But what has happened is that initiation came in, and I won't talk much about it, but it started right at Venus retrograde. And so there's a lot of movement, and that movement is meant to be shared here because this podcast is a vehicle for all of the initiation that personally and for this collective soul that I have carried in this lifetime. It is meant to hold the teachings, hold the wisdom, hold the divine feminine frequencies and the divine feminine archetypes as the fruit of this anchoring of the divine feminine wisdom onto the planet. So I'll take a moment. I'm going to look down. If anyone wants to just let me know that, oh, I appreciate the thumbs up and seeing some of you here live. If you want to let me know that the sound is good and everything's clear, I would love to hear that. And I would love to hear who joins us today and from what part of the world you are tuning in from. So my name is Shannon Port, and I'm the founder of the Art of the Feminine platform. You can find me at Art of the Feminine on Instagram as well as Facebook. I am a teacher of the feminine mysteries for the past decades, but also I'm part of this soul group that has come to anchor this wisdom into the world through the process of a word that I'm sure you're familiar with, embodiment. And so when we talk of embodiment, we mean that we literally hold the containers that move through the fire, the holy fire, go through the process of, thank you. We go through the process of initiation and of deep, deep experience, moving through what we call here specifically the eighth house mysteries. These mysteries involve Magdalene, they involve Lilith, they involve Eve, and all the 13 goddesses of divine feminine Kabbalah, which we also call the divine feminine esoteric system or goddess Kabbalah. It's a true and genuine feminine spiritual science in the iteration for this very age. And so it builds upon past ages, but in order to carry this iteration, there had to be work done in physical form at this time, at this coordinate in time and space. And so this divine feminine esoteric system is a complete system. It's very closely related to the Western mysteries, which are the Christos mysteries and the mysteries that I come out of that involve the archetype of Magdalene. So my work is to teach the feminine mysteries, and I have a school, the Divine Feminine Wisdom School, which is a year-long school right now, which we're getting ready to open for fall. I haven't announced it yet, but I will be doing interviews soon for that. But I have a real school, a school that's based on all my life's work and the stage by stage work that has been built up in light body yoga. And so I'm also the founder of a yoga called Light Body Yoga that I founded in 2003. And I've been teaching it all over the world. I started teaching it in New York City back in the early 2000s. And when I was living there, I lived there for many years. And I was also acting. And it's where I met my husband and then later moved and left the city because I was asked to. And so I'll tell more about that later. So this is who I am right now. The Holy Womanhood Podcast is really the vehicle of all of this work. And so I also am very, very versed in what we call divine feminine astrology. So I've been working with the archetypes of astrology, the tarot, the tree of life, which are all part of the Western system since as far back as I can remember. I mean, as a child, but it really started to pick up in the 90s, the early 90s, and then through by 2003, Light Body Yoga was founded based on this work. But what this divine feminine astrology is about understanding the relationship between the lower zodiac or the fallen Sophionic codes and the higher zodiac. And so that is why in Goddess Kabbalah, we have a 13 sphere tree of life that has been received over the past 2 decades. It is so deep, and it truly, at some point, you may be interested in real study. This is not fast spirituality, like fast food or fast fashion. This is not fast spirituality. It's not something that came from workshops or YouTube videos. This is work that has been done. It's called deep work. There's a book called Deep Work. That means it's the kind of work that required years and years for each specific process to be fully received. We work very deeply with the creative imagination and what we call the divine feminine archetypes. All of this work is founded on the feminine archetypes. And that's what we'll be talking about today when we look at Magdalene. So I think I said enough about me. I mean, it's just, we've been around here for a long time, and there's a lot of you who have been with me for a long time, and it's so good to see this community, because that's what I would like to say, what the Holy Womanhood Podcast is really about. Okay, so nice to see you here from Switzerland. In the UK. It's so nice. Oh, and I know Spain, Maria, and Los Angeles, Southwest British Columbia. I believe that is Santa Fe. So clear. Good to hear that this is clear today. Let me see if there's anyone else. Samira, very nice to see you. I forget where you're at, but it's lovely to see you always. Okay. So let me tell you why we're here and why we'll be meeting and what I intend to offer you, especially starting in season 2. Season 1 was a warm up. There are 5 podcasts, and they are all available on Shannon Port YouTube. Make sure to subscribe. Um, and I just appreciate your participation, all of it. If you have connection, this is for men and women, even though we really, really specialize in the mysteries as they correspond to the female body. However, I want to say right now, because I know there's some men in the audience, I know you're here. Sometimes you disappear when I start to do the feminine mysteries for Holy Womanhood. You are welcome here. I can't tell you how many, I can't tell you how many podcasts I watch that are for men. I mean, basically, we're living in a world where we have the bro podcasters that are really, really heavily focused on men. This is meant to be the equivalent of some of the huge podcasters that came out with the teachings for men to sort of wake them up, kick them into gear, ask them to take responsibility, and to really, really honor the various initiations in life, like growing up, like taking on responsibilities, possibly getting married and having children, like starting a business, and like taking care of yourself, taking care of your health. We are here with the equivalent for woman, but also for man, because let it be known, as men, and I watched all those male podcasts as well. I know could probably tell you more about like the diets and the regimens than any guy out there. And I also have a son who grew up, who found those podcasts on his own, and they serve their purpose. There's a lot of stuff going on with them right now. It's not necessarily my source of entertainment or information now. However, they served a very deep purpose at a certain time and really helped to sort of prepare the way for the spiritual teachings for the man. We will be working here with the physical, but really the spiritual and the esoteric. I don't say that word lightly. I taught for probably 10 years before I uttered the word esoteric. It's a buzzword along with words like occult and other words that when you were really deeply in the mysteries were discouraged from using that terminology because there's a bit of ego attached to it. And it has kind of a charge to it that attracts people that are oftentimes there for the wrong reason or that are consuming on the most shallow and superficial level, which turns it profanes. We use the word profane not lightly. It profanes the true teachings and it pokes holes in the egregore that is held on the higher planes. There's an egregore, and we have a specific egregore for Art of the Feminine that has been initiated by myself as I began to really, really go deep and receive, which I've related through mysteries or through initiation. The first major one was on Lionsgate. And so Lionsgate has always been profoundly important to us here. Okay. Profaning the wisdom it's everywhere. And yet it's so important that we have the power of the word and free speech right now. It's very important. It's misused all the time. It's abused all the time. However, as you will see, there are very big powers that would be very happy to have full blown censorship that holds the narrative, the official narrative of religion. And so we're here today to talk about the Magdalene mysteries. It is known right now that big tech and the big religions, the patriarchal religions, which I have no battle with them. I am not trying to take them down. I grew up in one of them and have deep respect and unity with all people on this planet that worship the light within through whatever religion. We are all working together. There is no taking anyone down. So we don't want to appeal to that side or appeal to those types of conspiracies. We in the mysteries, especially in the feminine mysteries, learn how to discern what we take in, which brings me to Virgo. We are meeting here today on the Virgo full moon. Virgo new moon. I'm sorry. I might have said that before. It's the new moon, the first of two new moons. It's also, I saw on social media today, which I did not know, called the black moon and appears, get this, once every 33 years. The reason I liked finding out it was called the black moon is because Virgo, we think of Virgo as the virginal energy, and oftentimes it has that, it's associated with blue and the oceans and white as well. There is a purity of the virgins of light and a pristineness. Virgo governs digestion. So not only the digestion of food, which is a very, very spiritual process, as we've talked about in great length and detail over the years. the digesting of our food. So Virgo rules the digestive system because it's the virgin. It purifies that system by separating the solar energy from the more dense energy that needs to be transmuted, but not even transmuted, released. So in the mysteries, we know that food contains light and Christ force. It contains the light of the sun. That's why our food is so important. And some of the movements happening right now to keep big corporations on in check are really, really important. Do not get involved in right left politics here. Call out what is good and discern what is not right. But it's really important. I just want to say this because this also relates to Virgo. In these times, you must not be bound by one political party. You can be loyal to one. You can prefer the company of one. There's a lot happening right now to challenge. There's things happening on the left to challenge some of the what's going to become even more of a just usurping of power and siphoning the goddess energy, siphoning the feminine energy on the planet. That is happening. We don't pick out specific people because everyone is playing a part in this on this chessboard. Many people bring some good things and then other things are awful. They may carry a vibration that leans more towards the carnal or the insatiable desire for money, wealth, power, and control. That is of the underworld. Spiritual power, however, is very much desired in this work. I've been telling you for the past many podcasts that I have a soulmate who did a lot of writing. It was actually in the early 20th century, who I will be bringing in a very profound body of work around how important discernment is in when you're on the spiritual path. We're not always perfect. We're human. But as the stakes get higher, as you move through initiation, you know that you walk one step at a time. There's no arrogance. You cannot be cavalier. You cannot go out to try to take down big groups unless you are initiated and working with the lens of the true hierarchies who understand how that chessboard is working right now, because it's very specific. There are unknowns. There are absolutely things that we don't know. We don't know how they will go, but we're taught on the inner plane in the genuine school how to navigate this, how to use our word, how to use our energy, our actions, how to protect our auric field, and how to get stronger and stronger so that we can co-create and participate with those beings who cannot come into the dense reality. They need vehicles. Now, that brings me to say one other thing, that a lot of people talk about masters and Buddhas and avatars. And there have been real avatars that walk this earth, and there are feminine avatars, and there will be more. But it needs to be understood that the term master is associated with various different planes. And a lot of what people call masters in the masculine lineages have not entered in to the higher solar feminine planes of the Christos, Sophia. They are masters of a certain realm, and many of them that did not complete the feminine mysteries at all are masters in a lower realm, and they participate in the planetary awakening. But let it be known that this platform is part of the cosmic feminine hierarchy. It doesn't mean it's fully linked yet. Divine feminine Kabbalah is the process of linking it, of linking the underworld to the cosmic. And so that means we go into the solar regions, but the higher solar regions into the solar feminine Christ energy. Um, this is above the twilight. We don't mess around in the twilight. We don't go into the darker lunar realm. We work in them in alchemy. But when we We know from the very beginning that the lower astral planes and what's called often in psychism or psychic um, terminology, the twilight realm. That's the realm of lower Lilith. We don't draw. You cannot meet with the higher masters in that realm. We draw from the solar feminine realm. And that is why the initiation is so what's the word? It's so strict and so it's so precise. That's why the feminine mysteries are not welcomed because they require an accountability that's new. It's not new, it's been here, but it hasn't been spoken to at the levels that we will speak to it. It's awakening on the planet, meaning in this world, there are patterns that we have accepted that are abusive to the feminine, and that affects the masculine. But the feminine receives the seed of the man, and then she molds it. And in that process of molding the seed, she has a direct link to the higher planes, depending upon her level of initiation, the virgin. She is able to access higher and higher seeds and souls that are ready to come into this planet. In the past many videos, going back to when I did a series called The Feminine Esoteric Code, I talk about my experience and how I was groomed spiritually, not in this lifetime, in many others, because we're on a continual trajectory and projection into the physical world. Um, those mysteries were part of what launched me into the next stage of my work and allowed me to give birth within that container of those mysteries and to really understand by a physical and spiritual and divine experience what that means and what it will mean for the coming age and the coming what we call the sixth race of humanity, which is the number 6 is connected to Venus and it's connected to the sun. Those are two big correspondences. There we have the Venusian mysteries and the solar feminine. 6 on both the esoteric and the exoteric levels of numerology is connected to Venus. 6 is the sixth sphere on the tree of life is the sun, Tiferet. And so this I'm just throwing in some if you don't know my work, we work with correspondences and it's a fluid language for us. It's not research. We don't have to refer to notes and look at other people's work. It has become, and if you study with me, you know it's fluid. It's our love, it's our divine love language, but it comes from integrating the codes and understanding, activating vision and connecting it to the power of the word, which is the true power of the human being to run the forces of the divine through the sound current. We work a lot with music and sound because sound is the initiator of all form. All form arises out of the nucleus. All sound, arises out of the nucleus, vibrates, and calls forth certain forces. This is why music is so important. And we don't judge it too harshly. There's a lot of bad frequencies out there. We don't judge it. We pick out what's good because this is a really tricky time right now, but sound creates light and light creates form, which is matter. We work here with what we call the holy matter or the holy mother, Sophia. Okay, let me just go back to what I said that this podcast will be. I'm going to take a moment now. All of that's coming in. The virgin is the highest level of the female initiate. It is not in any way connected to the lack of conception between the divine masculine and the feminine. That was a distortion of the mysteries. I don't have any desire to take on the exoteric streams because we work together. And that's one thing that I want to say really clearly. Those who always traditionally held the mysteries and the inner wisdom understand the relationship between the inner and outer teachings, and understand that all of the children of the divine are moving at the pace that is right for their physical transmutation. There has to be a certain amount of work done to hold the higher wisdom. And so there's no battle. It's not about taking down. It's about, that's why the mystery schools and the lodges were always small, and they were oracular traditions passed to a small group of people, from ear to mouth. They were not on blast going out to the masses on YouTube and blasting the sacred. We see that now in many ways. That's what we're doing here. We take it very slowly, step by step, and we feel the waves. We feel the waxing and waning. We feel when she has to pull back, and when she says, "We ride at dawn now, at the new golden dawn of Eve." When she says, we ride, because there's a time to charge ahead and there's a time to stay very still and take in what's really happening, to understand the frequency on our planet, and the frequency mostly of the human heart. The collective human heart is the vehicle of the feminine mysteries. There's a lot of talk about the heart, but the true esoteric heart requires very specific alchemy. And it's the alchemy of the Virgin, it's the alchemy of Eve, and the alchemy of Lilith. Without Lilith, there is zero alchemy. She is the raw power of nature. And so I come in with heavy, heavy Lilith influences, and had to understand both the dark side and the light side of Lilith. We look at the nodes of the moon, the light side and the dark side. We work here with what we call in the Divine Feminine Wisdom School, the lunar mysteries of holy womanhood, the moon mysteries of holy womanhood, which require both Eve and Lilith. So, there's a lot of systems that condemn the Lilith energy, but she's Mother Nature. She's the earth. She's Magdalene. And so there's quite a few videos on this channel about Lilith and Eve. We did the serpent and the prophetess, because that's really what it is. It's the serpent power, the serpentine goddess power, which is the dragon current used in holy conception, but also to purify and transmute the physical body and to raise it into the higher vibration, what we call here the divine feminine frequency, which is the collective work of the 13 divine feminine archetypes in Goddess Kabbalah, with all of their correspondences. And I'll just mention this. I don't have it offered anywhere right now, but when we did Holy Descent last fall at Samhain, it was the first time that I presented the whole system in one place. We went through an 8-week course of the Holy Descent of the Goddess. We called it Feminine Crucifixion and Resurrection. I'm going to offer that as we get closer to Samhain, the replay. If you're serious about study, this will break it down, because as we enter this new era, this work is very weighted. It's going to hold a lot of weight. And those people who have it as their fluid language, even internally, are going to be harmonizing with the new patterns coming in and with the direction that we're going. It's the North Star of where we're going. But let me see. So also what I want to say is we're coming up upon eclipse season in Pisces and Virgo, and that is Lilith and Eve. And so these next coming eclipses, which we'll talk about next week, hold vast archetypal wisdom. It's also the axis of my own north and south node, so it's very dear to me. I work at the last degree of Pisces as a point of initiation to graduate the lower zodiac. It's what has helped to bring this in, and that was the initiation I was under when Venus went retrograde. Venus and Saturn together hit my north node over and over, and they're going to go back again. Well, Saturn is retrograde right now. Saturn is going to enter Pisces again. I believe it's September 1st. Watch out. That is going to be the final sweep in the Piscean North Node energies. We have many videos about the number 18 and Lilith and what Pisces is really doing to our world right now. Everyone's under the Piscean influence. I said that on my last Instagram post how either president that came in the US was going to be under the Piscean influence, the influence of Mars. We're in a Mars year, number 9, and in this 2-year transit of the Pisces North Node, and the energies of Lilith, lust, craving, overlooking any normal boundaries to take what you want, to go in and take it. That's the shadow side of Lilith. She does not care about the rules. So when you access the lower side of Pisces, it's the bottom, it's the darkest, and we're under that influence. All of us are under it. So, okay, now I'm going to take a moment and I'm going to talk about this podcast and what you're going to get. Because of course, hello, it's nice to see you. This stream is so potent. I mean, when I say I could talk all day, every day, and it never stops, I mean that. My goal in our weekly gatherings for the Holy Womanhood podcast is to start to separate the wheat from the chaff, very Virgo, and to distill the information and have it become more and more refined. However, this lecture format, what's called long format, which is popular on YouTube right now. People are craving, I just saw this, people are craving the long format. They either want short little bite-sized pieces, which you see in the shorts, or they want to hang out and hear. That's how the podcasters blew up. People are ready for a genuine conversation. And that's what this is. It's also a streaming of the wisdom. So when I come on here, half the time I prepare things and I can't even stick to it because she's here. So we'll say that. So I'm going to tell you what this podcast is about, and then we'll tune in with the Christ Sophia in the 7 directions. All right. So this is the Holy Womanhood Podcast, and it's also connected to what we were doing in 2020, 2021, 22, 23, called the Goddess Report. So just to I will be bringing in, and as we as we distill this, we'll get more systematic about how we show the archetypal astrological codes, because we hold all the wisdom around those. When I say that the correspondences are vast and deep and rich, I cannot overestimate that. And that's also what we go into in the Holy Descent program, which is that 8-week program, which I'll be bringing in, making available in like a month or so. Okay. Welcome to the Holy Womanhood Podcast. Okay. All right. We are in a time when everything is changing. And so this is what we're going to be doing. This platform is needed, and we're going to develop it all the way. This is not, we already said, fast new age spirituality. It's the real deal. And it is the depth of these feminine archetypes, which are so desperately needed to uplift the masculine archetypes, balance them out, and create the restoration and the revival going forward. This is the time of that. So if you're participating in this work, you're part of something that is amazing. And you're so appreciated. And I want you to know when you come here that you're appreciated. This is not about a specific lean in politics, although we stay away from the more intense sides of politics. We're just not interested in that. But we understand that both things are happening beyond the polarity. So okay. All right. So we're going to be talking a lot about the 13 realms of Eve's holy tree of life. That is specific and original to this platform, the anchoring of that. And that is the Divine Feminine Wisdom School, which has been anchored on the planet. So the mission statement is that we are here to anchor the Venus mysteries on this planet through the actual process and energetic download of the Venusian template in matter. This is the purpose of all true Venusian initiates, the actual spiritualizing of matter that we call holy matter. This is done through the goddess sacraments and initiations, and through the 8th house mysteries of Lilith and Magdalene. We remember God the Mother, Sophia, and her feminine Christ energy, and reclaim the knowledge, the wisdom, and the understanding of the holy supernal trinity. We activate holy vision. This is huge because the holy vision is the resurrected creative imagination, which is the empress. It's the power to create through vision and sound, light and sound. It's the power that that is our birthright as we awaken to be real human beings. We're not real humans yet. The human is light and matter. And we're on, and some of the older mystery schools used to say, like, we're animals. We're not really human yet. To be human is divine. It's to be a true son or daughter of God. So that's what we're here for. We're already in the seed form, but there's a lot of dormant energies within us. Knowledge, wisdom, and understanding, but not only written knowledge. Knowledge is a frequency that you embody. The Christ Sophia frequency is the living stream. We call it the divine feminine stream of the Holy Spirit and the Divine Mother awake on this planet. In the Christ mysteries 2,000 years ago that were really anchored in, there was a lot of talk about bringing in the Holy Spirit. And that was the beginning of what would become the work we're doing here, because there's more to just receiving the Holy Spirit and speaking in tongues, much more. The true Holy Spirit arises is the flaming heart, the phoenix rising from the eighth house mysteries, and it requires work in the alchemical chamber of divine love. Okay. We activate holy vision. So I just wanted to really emphasize, we work with the creative imagination. The whole platform, ART, A-R-T, is the process of uniting the imagination with the Trinity to begin to create. I want to say this right now, with everything happening in the world, and I'm going to switch over in just a moment to what's really happening. I just did 2 posts on Instagram in about the atrophying of the heart and love. We're going to talk about that. So, how we work with that. We don't have to be married. We don't have to be in a committed love relationship. We don't have to be a mother. But we're doing all that genuinely on the inner plane, and our life is a testament to the fact that we understand it. And we start to take more and more accountability, and then the angelics, the 13 realms of Eve, begin to work through us in a new way. They can trust us that we can hold space in time in this underworld in 3D. It's not easy. The temptations, the attacks are constant. The video today is called The Attack on Eve's Holy Heart, the attack on love and Eve's holy heart. And we'll be getting into that. So to finish this, we resurrect the power of divine love and purpose in all men and women everywhere to transcend the addiction, the lethargy, the lethargic and depression, the depressive states that have taken hold of our most valuable creative force. They are siphoning it. Our last video was called AI, the techno-feminine era, and the telepathic invasion of Eve. That is the last video. And if you know my work and you know the videos, you know what's going on. Go watch that. It's the last video. I've been sharing lots of clip of it on YouTube, but that is the siphoning of the goddess energy. A lot of people were siphoned away from their true mission. And that's what happened starting around 2020, a lot. And it was all by design. And many people fell off their mission and got completely taken over without even being aware of it. This is a problem for the higher planes, and it's one of the things that we work with pretty deeply here. I don't talk a lot about it because it's not a takedown. We don't believe in takedown. This is about understanding why you have to have your practices. Without the practices, you're susceptible to any conspiracy that comes along. Most of the conspiracies have 10 to 30% truth to them, but you can't get it wrong. I mean, there's allowances to be human, but it has to be meticulously guided. That is why initiation is crucial. When you go through that fire, you understand that the higher you go, the further you will fall. If you're being given something to carry and you get cavalier or arrogant, you get annihilated. Now, in this world, there's false algorithms and there's false attention that comes that makes things look like they're blowing up. That is the attention of the lower realm. And it's you have to have vision to see what is holding the light. This is about the light, the spiritual light. This does not mean that we need people speaking certain things to work people up that are very beginning levels. You can often tell when you're on those platforms. You can see what kind of people are gathered. They're newbies. They're at the very beginning, and we need everybody to get on board. But there's very real work, and we cannot sidestep that. We cannot bypass it. What I notice about the people who gather here, and I'm also inviting people that are ready to go into the next levels to show up here. There's no barrier for entry. However, the frequency alone will repel people who are just craving conspiracy. They won't be satisfied enough here. However, we're going to get into some of the bigger truths with a capital T, because it doesn't have that lust serpent of Lilith that feels like it's really like happening and it's good and you want more. It's like eating or drinking and wanting more and more. We try to activate the full figured eight and not just the bottom. We work with the Hebrew letter Tet and the sign of Leo to work the figured eight, which is the archetype of the light body woman, to run the full currents of Lilith and Eve. So we resurrect divine love, and we seek to transcend these addictions. The feminine energy on the planet, we just talked about the siphoning of goddess energy and the engineering of distractions and the derailment for those who get a little careless or who are going for something that's more of the ego. The feminine energy on the planet, okay. The new feminine esoteric system for activating the divine feminine frequency, that's what we're here for, all the way. The feminine was cut out, but the systems that are happening right now are suppressing. We don't live in the material world anymore. We live in the digital world. What's happening is that the true feminine force and feminine energies are being suppressed quite intentionally, because it's the feminine energies that link us to both to both matter and spirit. We have to have the feminine, or we get too much on the horizontal plane. We need it. If you suppress the feminine in favor of digital and technology, you're going to lose. You're going to go into an alternate reality. Now, these alternate realities, like this sort of lower astral world, you hear it called the eighth sphere. It's a version of the lower lunar planes, but it's the lower lunar planes that we are creating. So they are as susceptible and as creative as the higher planes, meaning you can create things there and make worlds there. So that is why we work with the eighth house mysteries and the Hebrew letter Tet and the serpent force of Leo at Lionsgate, because the number 8 is incredibly loaded with spiritual and metaphysical energy, because it's really that. And we often, in the Art of the Feminine podcast, used to talk about how woman is shaped like a figured 8. The female form is that figured 8. She is the vessel, the chalice to hold the wisdom. Now, we also say the soul, which is the feminine principle, is also the vessel. Like in the more abstract and looking at it just from an or objective view, the feminine is the soul. But the physical females that come in with a female endocrine system and a female aura, which we've talked a lot about over the years, have to participate 50-50. They have to, or it gets out of balance. Both the masculine and the feminine were sabotaged and are in the wrong frequency as of right now. The masculine's trying to wake up, and there's some work being done. I see it out there, and it makes me really happy. But now the feminine, we've got the down and dirty and hard and dark work to do, because I tell you, this is not for the faint of heart. The feminine mysteries require humility. And those of you who I have worked with, I don't know what these crowns with the number 2 mean. That's so funny. I've been away for a while. I'm looking down in the chat. Don't know what that means. Hello, Jack. So nice to see you. So we're here for that work. That's what you'll get in the Holy Womanhood podcast. And we're going to look at the astrology. We're going to look at the feminine mysteries, and we're going to look at what's happening on the ground. The Goddess Report was designed to look at what's happening in real time. And so as we meet, we will also look, we don't turn away from the material world. Okay, almost there. Okay. The masculine, remember, even the spiritual masculine energy, inert without the goddess, cannot move, legs gone. We used to say there's that metaphor of a mind that works, but no legs. You know what to do, but you don't have the legs to get there to do it. So you just sit inert. That is what we are transmuting, that inertness to act spiritually. Okay. Well, I'm going to read the podcast. There's a lot happening with men right now. There's a lot of great researchers out there, which I may even invite on this podcast. They're more from the secular world and the world of academia, but there's some wonderful people writing books. There's one coming out that are about what's happened to men in our world and this sort of like dropping out, giving up, turning to addiction, losing their male force. It's an epidemic and it's huge. And as women, we give birth to these men. They're our sons, our brothers, our friends, our husbands, and we are 100% connected to this. You cannot separate the male and female. And for those who I always like to say this, for those who are having like a different kind of situation in this lifetime, we welcome you. Meaning, like, you're not all man, you're not a woman, and I'm not talking about some of the far crazy stuff that's been brought in, but I'm talking about knowing that you belong. There's not one archetype that you have to be in. It's not rigid, this work, but there are two polarities. There is the feminine and the masculine, and there is Mars and Jupiter, and there is Eve and Adam. And these are very real. And then the collective Adam and Eve carry those forward. So we're going to talk about the male thing. Okay. We need the divine feminine consciousness, and that's that. I'm going to take a peek down. Then we're going to look into. I have the work on Magdalene. We'll see how much we can get to about some research. I have a great article about her and when she was actually removed and turned into three people by the church fathers in the church teachings. We're gonna look at that. The reason. Let's tie this all back to Magdalene now. Without Mary Magdalene, without the understanding of who she was on the archetypal plane and on the physical plane. And there's different ways of perceiving that, but her archetype is inseparable from the masculine Christ, inseparable. And so to remove that and to make a masculine Christ that doesn't need the feminine, because that's the spiritual way to do the spiritual teachings, it's 100% false when it comes to the higher feminine mysteries. We talk about being a virgin. The Virgin Mary doesn't have to do with not using the dragon current. Although I will say in this work, for all of you who've studied with me, you know our original work is the new human sexual paradigm and the new feminine sexual paradigm. It's all about healing that current and bringing it into alignment with the higher frequency, a must. So it's not, we don't condone like anything goes. It's not that. The 60s were a time of there was a time when you had to break away from certain things. We'll be getting into that as we go. But the true meaning of the virgin is the female initiate who has mastered the desire body and the body of purity. We here call it the body of purity and the body of desire, and who understands their relationship in that figured eight. You would hear you hear a lot about Babylon in these days, and about how how there's this Luciferian current running through show business or Hollywood or the music industry. Very true. That current, let's see what we want to say about it. Well, it's the Lilith current, and it's necessary. If we went to just a high and holy existence with rules and dogma, and everyone's holy and everyone's the literal virgin and everything is bound within, we would fall, we would cease to exist in matter. We have to have that current. It's been here since the beginning of time. It's used, and there's a fierce battle, which we see mirrored in the Middle East right now, between the between the two darker forces and between the two collective groups of Adam and Eve. And so, let me see what else. You have to have discernment. You have to not throw the baby out with the bathwater. You have to be able to see who is an initiate and who is totally handled. And there's a huge difference. Now, on this earth, we all have forces seeking to siphon and steer. It takes a lot to be able to see them, but when you see them, you pluck them out like the weed in the heart in the Garden of Eden. You pull them out and you let your heart bleed. You bleed it out. You get rid of them. It's a very specific process. It has to do with the feminine crucifixion and the holy descent of the goddess. We work both in the upper garden and the lower garden. You understand? In esoteric wisdom, that stands for the dragon current. There is the upper Eden and lower Eden. There's the upper zodiac and the lower zodiac. Both are necessary in the feminine mysteries. And the idea that every bit of spiritual wisdom on the planet is so tainted and so off, I'm going to just say, let me just say, see what I should say to that. This is more in the conspiracy worlds that get so far out. There was a time when I checked in with certain movements. When you check in now, it's pretty heavy. It's pretty heavy what's going on. So let me just take a moment. Um, it requires the Virgin. It requires the Virgo energy and the Piscean energy, and we are in that axis now. We have 2 new moons in Virgo that are energetically supporting the work we're talking about today. Very specifically, it's the place of my South Node. I've talked about this. It means I've had many lifetimes in the Virgin energy or the Virgo energy and served on that capacity, both in the pristine distortion archetype as well as the genuine archetype. But we're also looking at Pisces, the mother deep, where the bottom dwellers are held in the 12th house. We need all of this because the 12th house is what you call it, the magnum opus. It's the end. Lilith carries the end of the zodiac for a reason. I hope some of this is making sense. I'm going to go read that post from Instagram now. I'm just going to take a moment and look down and see if there's any questions. All right. All right. Would anyone, the new paradigm, yes. And I just want to say, thank you. Oh, thank you. Oh, gosh, I still don't know what those crowns and number 2s are. That's so funny. Maybe it means it's someone who's been here before. I'll have to look that up. Okay. So, all right, let's do this. I'm just going to speak to what I wrote because this has to do with Eve's, the attack on love and Eve's holy heart. I know exactly where we're going to go now. We're going to shift gears. We're going to go into the world as a candy store. Yeah. It's funny. I've been posting posts with the Madonna Ray of Light album, that because I knew when that came out, that holds so much. But there's a song called Candy Store. I might post it with some of the work that's coming. There's a lot. She brought a lot in through that. Okay. Does anybody have any questions, or is there anything you would like me to speak to before we move into this? Okay. All right, here we go. I'm seeing I just opened Instagram. I saw someone I love. Okay. All right, so here we go. I this post I put divine woman full of grace and wisdom. This is how if you're even if you're a man, you want to think of yourself filled with grace and wisdom. And certainly when you look at women, see it to draw it out and create it. Remember, seeing is part of how the goddess Kali And in the sphere of Vina, it represents the dark womb, but it also represents the living current that creates. The Empress is the living current of the imagination. It's Venus ruled. And that's why on the tree of life, the sphere of Saturn is deeply connected to the sphere of Venus, one of the great mysteries. My Kabbalistic rulers are none other than Venus and Saturn, which meant in this lifetime, I'd be doing work with love. Non-negotiable, had to do it, signed up for it. Okay, I am the well of life and healing. The waters needed right now come through the feminine. Hello, good to see you. Oh my gosh, so nice to see you. If you're here and you're in the background, please comment and let me know where you're tuning in from. Um, It is she who will save this world. So we mean that not only literally, but the divine feminine. This is the age of we work with the Temple of Isis. And I've told you my initiation going into that temple. I try to stay away from a lot of talk like that because this podcast is so deep and so serious. It's not just dropping buzzwords like that, but it genuinely, the Mother Isis is the stream of this wisdom for the new era. So we mean that literally, but also that her wisdom stream and her wisdom frequency, the divine feminine frequency, is the new spermatoza that will activate through the sun. It's the solar feminine level. And that's the level I talked about, how when we tune in, the 13 goddesses are receiving comes all from way above the twilight. And there's very specific training on how to go below the lower astral because there's lots of forms there. It's infinite. There's infinite forms in the twilight. We go into what's called the solar regions, but specifically, nice to see you, Shaz. So good to see you. We go into the feminine realm, the nucleus of the mother, which is we enter at a lower place, but she's connected all the way to what we call the cosmic core code. This might sound like a lot of words. This is what I teach when we teach in Holy Descent. We went through it meticulously and we did all the activations. If you understand feminine energy and the goddess activations, when you do the activations, they are imprinted in you and they become part of the living repertoire of knowledge that you have. That course was designed to be very specific. Again, it's not out there now, but I just want to remind you also, I'm opening the year-long Divine Feminine Wisdom School in the next couple weeks for Equinox. So if you're interested, look for the information soon. Okay. Can you see her? I don't know if this will show, but can you see her? Yeah. It is in her feminine resurrection body that you will rise. I'm going to clarify this. It is in her feminine resurrection body, her feminine immortal body, that you will rise. So we're referring to the heart, but we're also referring to the eighth house mysteries, because many of the male masters that are masters of a certain plane have not yet done this work, and it's missing. And when you come from the lineage, you so painfully know it. Yet we're so thirsty for knowledge. So we want anything that sounds like it's esoteric or cool, or we thirst for knowledge. I don't mean that as a put down, but we go there. And I know for my soul, I had to learn a lot of lessons from my lineage to break the addiction to that, because, and I was given in the Akashic records, there was a program, not to overuse that word, but to keep me from lifting the veil to really see it and claim the lineage that I come from. It took, I can't, if I told you how many meetings I had to have with the higher masters over and over, and they could tell me the words and I couldn't implement what they were saying. It was just too clashy with 3D life and with 3D eyes, that even though I've always had the ability to see in the inner planes and the higher planes, that felt like death. And you know what? It was death. It was the female crucifixion. And that is what holy descent is. It's how we regenerate and claim that wisdom, that I am that the mother. We claim her in the core of matter at the very lowest and in the cosmic core code and every 13 sphere in between. So it was a program. When I tell you, I cried and just, what's it called when you just like, it was like many, many nights of energetically to get there. It's like you're breaking out of something, and that is what we call bondage in the underworld. We're so tied to some of the male teachers are, and what I see, I just want to say this. By the way, I've read all the male teachers. I know them. I have some on my bedstand. This isn't to put it down, but to carry what's coming, we have to know. That's what knowledge with a capital K is. What was I going to say? See how quick it gets wiped. Okay, just one moment. Oh, that's why it took so long to bring the full teaching into an 8-week course because it would be separated and compartmentalized. I know what else I'm gonna say. I get it. I remember. I remembered. Oh my god, it came back. It was compartmentalized, but this is the beginning of putting it all in one place. What I want to say, oh my gosh, okay. Just one moment. Okay, got it. All right. I see a lot of women. I see, and this is not to put anyone down ever. You've never heard me mention a name ever. Oh, I've come in contact with quite a few. What I see happening, it's so apparent right now that a lot of men are becoming famous right now talking about the woman's experience. And I see people, even that I know, so excited to share the teachings of the feminine shared by a man. And then that man gets 100,000 likes, his thing blows up, and he's like riding that wave. Great. But this is what I have to say. The transmission through the words, the written words of a woman, and the sound current of the woman are meant to serve the stream. Now, it doesn't, for the men who gather here, speak to everyone you know when it feels right about this wisdom and share whatever feels right for you. But I'm talking about a more egoic level of claiming something that hasn't been earned. It's just in the algorithm right now. And women are so desperate. I see it to see someone who speaks the truth about them and to see it in a male form that they instantly go into worship. That's oftentimes, this is deep to say this. Just one moment. That is oftentimes why the women bowed unconditionally to male teachers without questioning what their very eyes and their inner heart was telling them. It's why when we talk about Magdalene in just a moment, it's why she is so feared. Her archetype is so feared. And the new technology controls are meant to eventually lead to having standard AI narratives. So it's really important. There's a clash right now. It's really important to understand this. So, okay, I'm going to keep reading. Now I'm going to get to the part. Okay. The feminine resurrection body. Okay, that's what I want to finish on. The female path, the female immortal body is not the same path as the male immortal body. It's different, and rightfully so. You can't you can't just say, "Oh, this happened. It was done through a man and all these male masters and Buddhas." No. The female avatars and the female teachers have to hold the template for specifically for Eve, have to. And that's why my path has been so brutal. I'm just having a little humor about that right now. Okay. All right. This is what I'm going to read. This is, I said, message from Shannon. Okay. We're going to read this and just talk about it and lead into the candy store talk. The human heart is starting to atrophy due to our lack of connection to the divine feminine wisdom. We are choosing addiction and distraction over genuine spiritual human connection and love. So I just talked about how so many men are dropping out just dropping out of society, either turning to conspiracies or just like, watching videos or actually we can't go without saying the new industries that are the artificial intimacy. I've heard it called that. They're the fake intimacy. That is the biggest control system on our planet. There's no mincing words here. So many people are falling off into that, using substances to numb their pain and then getting a lower level of pleasure from what's fake, or having fake relationships with people who have zero love for them. Oh, yeah, it looks good and sounds good, and you will hear what you want to hear, and it will make you feel good, and maybe temporarily remove the pain of being in a 3D body and being human and not being able to have the power to connect with another human being through your heart in intimacy. Yes, it can numb that pain, but oh, that is not the real deal. That is not the goddess. Now, she works obviously through anything, and this is not to condemn any of the female or male vehicles who work in those fields, not at all. They themselves are in certain Lilith initiations, and there's a place for all of it. This is not about wiping it out, but it's for those who have ears to hear and eyes to see, and the power of the true vision to know how to create that on the inner world so that you can bring it into the out, so that your arc field holds that energy. Wherever you stand, you are the divine feminine light of that place. Okay. If we don't correct course, we are going to see the breakdown of human love and fertility in ways that are unfathomable in the coming era. So, this has been our message since the early 2000s, and now we're in the stage where it's happening. There's a lot of big, you know, corporations and many in big tech that want this to happen. This is not a threat, because there will be a certain class, the breeder class, and it will be broken down so that now it corresponds to a real phenomena where those who are spiritually connected begin to reproduce more, because that's how we birth the sixth race. That's what light body woman, the archetype of the light body woman, that has been our original feminine archetype, which required me to go through the feminine mysteries, is so powerful. That is the archetype that gives birth to the sixth race. It requires the knowledge and the frequency. Now is oh, okay, they're gonna be unfathomable in the coming era. Now is the time for the true initiates of the goddess to rise. These are the divine feminine initiates. In this new techno-feminine age, we did a whole video about that. The last video, it is the goddess, it's Magdalene Mysteries 2. It is the goddess who will activate the return of the feminine mysteries of love and wisdom, meaning love can no longer exist without wisdom. Sophia is wisdom. She's a frequency. And it's going to get harder and harder. There is the bifurcation where there's just the masses that just can't stand under the weight of these lower forces that are pressing hard right now. And I mean hard, seductive forces that fool even some of the brightest people. This is why we need the feminine vision to really understand this. It's not a game. It's gonna happen, and it's gonna happen pretty quickly that things shift. But there's that bifurcation, and then there's the new pods, the new world that's birthed through the heart, through the womb, and through the eighth house mysteries. We are learning how to love each other in romantic love. There is disinterested love, which many of the male masters speak of ad nauseum. The disinterested universal love, beautiful. But we have to protect and activate romantic love, meaning desire of two people who procreate, because only, and that's why we've been steered away from it. I cannot tell you how much we've been told that the Christic force cannot come through the non virginal birth. It's a very deep um, misrepresentation of the archetype, and it hurts the woman and it hurts the womb. And it funnels and siphons all of the goddess energy down a particular stream. So if you are called, many people are dropping out of love right now too, and I have no judgment whatsoever. It's hard right now. If you're a spiritual man or woman, this is not the easiest of times to be alive, because finding someone that can hold frequency with you is hard. We have our soulmates that come in, and even so, even those who are soulmates, such a big part of the time cannot hang or cannot hold court with the one who has the higher frequency. It is really tricky, because there are soulmate relationships that are meant to come together, but the outer world has got them. It's zapped one of them. Oh my gosh, let me speak to that now. I wanna speak to that now. Okay, I've got several emails from some of you, and so this is so potent right now, I wanna speak to this, that are having a lot of females having problems with male partners. I don't wanna say problems, but experiencing deep, deep, just getting either blindsided or suffering or disappointment for how things are going right now. Oh, I love hearing that. I'm gonna read that. "My love for my husband is growing stronger all the time. 30 years together, I've learned so much." Yes, don't, if you're in a relationship, you've been with someone forever, it's just like autopilot, don't take that for granted. That platform, you're working through that platform. It is a platform of the goddess of Sophia. Use it. Be conscious of it. The friendship aspect is as important as the desire aspect. So if you're in more of a friendship stage, honor that, because you are emanating that into the planet. So what I want to say is that, okay, where were we? Oh, relationships. A lot of women have written to me just heartbroken, crushed at the path that some of the men are succumbing to or being seduced. And women see it and they feel helpless. And it can activate some of the lower Lilith side where you're angry and you just, I mean, it can drive the woman crazy. This is what has driven the collective Eve into the dark side. This is why we call this video the attack on love and Eve's holy heart. Her heart is holy. It's a generator. When the collective Eve has been denied the experience of the eighth house mysteries in commitment and in their own life, sometimes a work calling, a vocation is a calling of those mysteries as well, but the specific work has to happen in love, because love alchemizes us and shows us in our shadow in a way that very few things can. We know that. The collective Eve has a broken heart. All of the past videos I've done are about this, and that is holding down the frequency of our planet in lockdown. That is what this moon lunar energy, this twilight energy around our planet is. We're using that as the stream to nourish us, and it's not the fully activated stream. It's not anchored. There's the Christ and the feminine Christ energies, the Sophionic currents in the Sophionic mysteries come through the sacrifice of the female heart. Now, never fear, because some of those of us who are initiates had to have this done multiple times. In my own work, if I told you the punishing initiations that came every time this work was about to go to the next level, it's almost, I find it hard to believe, literally the real events that took place. So that has to do with the integration. And in my experiences, my heart got to go all the way to the very climax, even though to the peak of the mountain, even though the relationship would then be disintegrated in the fire, in the flames, and burned off, not without deep, deep suffering and pain felt by the feminine heart. So some people that hold that and you know who you are, I often write and speak for you. You've gone through this kind of, it's a pain unlike anything else. The loss of real love, when it's the archontic force that's doing it, there is nothing that it besides the attack on a child that takes down the female heart. Now, the reason we're building strength. Strength is key 8 in the major arcana. It is Leo. It is the Hebrew letter Tet. We are building strength. That's why a lot of initiations happen in the sign of Leo, the Lion's Gate. As we, as initiates, get stronger and stronger, they come. Those initiations come, and you think you're not going to make it. You think you're going to die again. But eventually, something different happens. And that is the building of the divine, feminine, immortal body template that can only happen in the feminine mysteries. That is what this work is here for. That is what we've spent the past, oh my gosh, 25. So 20, oh my gosh, it's been 22 years. That's a cycle. That's the major arcana. That's crazy. It's been 22 years since I came public on the bigger platforms to talk about this work. And we've been doing it from the beginning. Little, and I often say this, little did I know what it would involve. And my human self couldn't have said yes to it. Love. Sometimes we have to let go of love. Sometimes we have to discern love. Sometimes something is just not right. But as you get stronger, you learn to see what's what. Don't give up on love. Especially a lot of men are dropping out in love, and a lot of women I know have just given up. Try not to give up on love. I've watched a lot of women in this era go from when I met them at one point in their life to where they are now, and there's more than ever before of people who wanted love have not yet called that in. It's a phenomenon. It's happening with men too. We need to just pray about it, take a look at it, and dig in. Love yourself, love your work, have unity with other people, start with friendships, value your friendships. I want to say one of the things we offer here is that we value connection and friendship hugely. A real friendship, honor it. They're not always perfect. There's a saying, if you have one real friend on this planet, you have heaven itself. We all need, and that's what oftentimes a soulmate is. If you have one person who sees you for who you are, who recognizes you through the good and the bad in a healthy way, and hangs on like a pit bull and doesn't leave you, you've got the forces of God with you. Friendship, the age of Aquarius, which is the archetype of the star, is the age of friendship. Remember, start with friendship, and even start with friendship and love. Friendship is so important. I value the friendship I have with you, this community that come into my field, even though sometimes there, over the years I've been lucky. I haven't had a lot, but sometimes something really challenging comes. And I just tell myself, I value the friendship. I value the human connection. Let me stay on track and not, and see past what I'm supposed to see past and let go of what I'm supposed to let go of. Because friendship, a broken friendship can change your life. We want to really value friendship with your spouse too. It's the highest level of marriage on one hand. And in fact, divine union goes with deep friendship. We need the partners, all the partners we have now. Okay, I've got more to say. We're going to jump into the Magdalene stuff. Let me see. I think I've got the last bit of that. Men, please join this podcast. Please join us. Please chime in as we get going and there's more people. We want to hear from you. All right. Okay, that was it. It's the goddess that we're bringing in. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the world as a candy store. So the the world is a candy store, meaning you can buy anything you want in the realm of desire and the insatiable lower Lilith energies at any time. Not even buy it. You don't even need money. So think about, let's just take a moment with this, and then we're going to look at Magdalene and understand why she's necessary. Um, just one moment. I'm just kind of firing this up to have it ready when it's time. Okay. Okay. Oh man, we have so much. I'm so excited about this season 2. I'm telling you. Tell your friends, please. Invite women, share the podcast. I know these first couple will be long, but I do timestamp them. Let people know what we're doing here and let them know it's a genuine stream. I cannot stress that enough. This has been earned through blood, sweat, and tears and genuine initiation. So anyone that can hear the sound current and recognize it, come, gather round, share in this collective heart of Adam and Eve so that we can do this work on this planet. What's happening is now we live in a world now with tech that anyone can go online at any time and see whatever they want. I've talked about this. I've talked about some of the big platforms. There's no guardrails. The industry itself, the desire industry, I say that so we don't have a lot of talk about the sexual current. The desire industry is bigger than anything. And let me tell you, we talk a lot about the AI robots and the new AI that is being used on these platforms in ways you can't, it's going to go into the filth of the filth. It just is. Because human nature and the lack of the goddess energy in the heart will slowly siphon off energy from the planet and with young people as well, and especially with the masculine. When the masculine gets desperate, lonely, isolated, you know, amped up on substances or down on substances, what are you going to turn to? That's the game. That's how it's working right now. We have to understand and speak about it when it's necessary. If you are a person who partakes of something like that, start to discern frequency. So at least you can partake of the frequency that's not in the gutter or going into the darkest realms that will kill your vital energy. It will steal it. It will siphon it and give it straight to the devil. That's what it does. And then it will destroy your emotional body and make you incapable of real love. It will sabotage your vitality and your strength and force. Say no to it. And there's something so much better you can choose. But what do we do for our children? And how do we help invite people in? It's going to happen. People know, like people know that this is happening and people are ready. So start small and invite people in. We have all of our practices in light body yoga, doing these practices, the practical, that's what's been channeled in over the years. It unbelievable. You can do we have a practice called light body alchemy. We have light body heart. We have light body wisdom. We have practices in the light body yoga teachings. Oh my gosh, when you just start to engage and interface with that, that's not the same as reading wisdom or watching a YouTube video. That is doing it. And it is a different game. Do something like that, and you'll be drawn into the field. You'll be magnetized into it, and you'll awaken the Shakti. So, the Shakti energy of the goddess will start to make your heart vibrate. There's different things that can be said about that, but then you start getting a taste for it. That's saying that when you stop eating fast food and start eating gourmet food or home cooked food or slow living food, you lose your taste for the other stuff because you see it and it's almost like you see the pile of chemicals. That's not to put it down, you know, um, your choices change. Not because someone conked you over the head and said you shouldn't eat that because it's bad for you, because your palate recognizes the solar force in food and it wants real food. It wants the food that's beaming with the sunlight, which is increasingly going to be harder to get. Grow a garden. We talked about how growing a garden brings the angelic forces straight to you. Can activate the 13 realms of Eve just by simply planting in her vibrational energy and all things that nurture that life and that growth that we talk about in the fertility rituals of beautiful music, sound current. Read your holy teachings in your garden. Watch what happens. This is real. Talk to your child in the womb, play music. This is real. We are such profound creators, we don't even realize it. So the addiction distraction axis distracts either through social media and constant consumerism. I want to say something about how I feel we're outsourcing our lives to celebrities. I notice I do this myself sometimes. I have some celebrities I really like. And sometimes if I'm in my life and I don't have everything going right what I want, I'll look at that and you feel yourself jump into their life and think, "Wow, that's so wonderful that they have that." But we start to outsource our own lives because the social media is again, it's a marketing it's even connected it's connected to even the darker side of that starts with a P. So, when we just have we think our life is being lived by watching other people live their lives, that's not living our life. That's the game. Celebrities have a lot of, visibility. We see their popularity, we see their money, we see their beautiful vacations in the south of France and in Italy and it's like, when you're not feeling good, can be fun to look at that stuff. But we have to make sure we're not giving our own experience in 3D away and living in an imaginary world that doesn't belong to us. True, we can jump in it, we can be inspired. Teach your children how to create their own lives. I wanna say something. In the new AI world, I've read a few articles about this already. Let's talk about it. What the high currency will be in the techno-feminine age or the new AI world, this is what it is. The old skills. The old skills, the human skills. The people who've created tech know this. The Silicon Valley people know this. I know this. I raised my son this way. Teach your children the old skills. Teach them how to have a conversation with eye contact. Teach them how to speak and value grammar, the speaking of the word. Teach them how to speak with cadence. Teach them how to listen. And to listen with the heart and to understand what that feels like. Listening was one of the first big esoteric concepts we taught here. In the Tarot, listening is associated with the archetype, the Hierophant, which is the archetype of Taurus and the Hebrew letter He. It's the archetype of the pentagram. Some people might know the old tarot as the sign of the Pope, but it's the Hierophant. And or no, I'm sorry, it's not the Hebrew letter Hey, it's the Hebrew letter Vav. Hey is Aries. In the way we're working with it, it's a Vav. Yod, Hey, Vav, Hey. Vav is the nail that brings the light of spirit together with matter, and that activates the Christ force, the pentagram. So, um, the esoteric quality and superpower of the Hierophant is listening. We have forgotten how to hear. I have a video clip I was gonna post recently that's all about this. I'll post it on Instagram tomorrow. If you cannot hear correctly I just posted this, and I just did a clip on Instagram at Art of the Feminine. Make sure to follow if you're new. And wearing orange. It's the first Holy Womanhood podcast. I say, this is light body yoga. In order to see, you have to learn how to hear. Teach your children how to listen. Cultivate their attention span. Teach them how to read books. These are the skills that the Silicon Valley people are saying are most important to their own children. And my son was raised this way. So I see he's in college now. He lived in New York City all summer. And he did an internship in New York City. He's on his way to London in a week, and he's studying there and doing another internship. Oftentimes I call him and I'm like, "What are you doing?" And he'll be reading some classic book. I have a funny story on his first spring break in college. I called him. I had moved to the West Coast already, and he was at his father's, and I said, "What are you doing for spring break? Like, are you gonna go someplace with all your friends?" It was his first spring break, freshman year. And he's like, "No, I think I'm gonna hang out at dad's." And he said, "I got a new book, and I think it's called The Brothers Karamazov." I'm gonna just look this up. It's a 1,000-page Russian novel. And I'm like, "Are you kidding me?" And he said, "Yeah, but mom, the thing is, you're gonna read it with me." And, okay, wait. Obviously, I didn't end up reading it. 1 second. I wanna say this. Okay, okay. It's called The Brothers Karamazov, and it's written by Dostoevsky. Dostoevsky wrote some deep stuff, but it's a 1,000-page Russian novel, and a lot of those Russian writers are connected deeply to the esoteric in the archetypes in their stories. Oh, great. Teach your kids to read. So this is my son telling me he's spending his spring break, he's gonna knock out a 1,000-page novel, and I couldn't keep up to him. He wanted to discuss the chapters with me. This is how we learn how to think. This is also how we learn the archetypes. The written word is nothing but archetypal wisdom. When we read, we ingest the streams of those archetypes. He was also raised on all the pantheons. He's really was into as a child, like little read all the Greek mythology and the Roman all the pantheons. And then like reads the fantasy novels. A lot of those writers have deep, they're streaming in the tree of life, really. And so reading is huge. One-to-one people skills, huge. We all need this. If you get in a conflict with someone and you wanna run away and unfriend them and block them, you've succumbed to the system. That's not how real relationships work. I saw when I started working with a lot of millennials, what I saw was that, um, I saw that millennials they cancel, they cut off. You don't like me, you did something to me, I'm gonna cut you off, I'm gonna cancel you, I'm gonna block you. Next. I have standards and boundaries, and it's over and over. There's a place for all of that, but I just wanna say our culture is not valuing this is why friendship is so important, not valuing friendship. Friendship is takes work sometimes. There's those friends that are cosmic and that are of our soul group. Sometimes though they bring the hardest lessons. Teach your kids how to value friendship and how to pick their friends and discern their friends. And if you need to let go of someone, how to do it in a way where you don't hurt yourself and pick up more karma, but to do it with integrity. So there's reading, there's learning how to speak and to speak in articulate sentences. How to write. Okay. I'm going to 7 days open the hedge and restore the portion of the Holy Spirit removed. 7 days, open the hedge and restore. I'm not sure what that means. So, writing is a skill that we absolutely need. We are now giving tech everything with ChatGPT, with technology. Those skills will atrophy. When you write, my whole life has been writing. I have massive Neptune. If you have a lot of Neptune, you're a writer. Neptune and Mercury Neptune is the highest. It's the prism. It's the goddess prism. We call it the light body prism. And it works through Pisces. It's also in the underworld. It's the prism of the imagination. And it's ruled by the number 7. So that number 7, that's the prism. So when you write about things, journal about things, that my whole work was birthed from writing. I write every day. I mean, I have some, I'm going to show just 3 books here, right here. I have many of these. So these are some of my solar feminine books. I write in journals. I have so many, it's not even funny. And they're all different colors for the different rays. When I work with the sun or when I work with Venus or when I work with Mercury, I code everything so that I know what's in that book. So write. Don't lose the skill to write, and don't let your children learn how to put their thoughts on paper because you work out the process. These are the skills that will be needed in the age of AI. I heard tech people saying this straight off. The people who will navigate AI and not be overtaken by it are those who keep the old skills polished, who know how to speak, listen, write, read. What was the other one? Have human relationships. That's a skill that's falling off too. So let me see. All right. Let's talk about the Virgin and Magdalene. Okay. I'm gonna pull up this Magdalene thing now while it's on my mind. So okay. All right. Oh, Mary Magdalene. Okay. So this is some of the wisdom with Magdalene. All right. Okay. All right. Mary Magdalene holds the key. Now, it was often known in sociology and in kind of propaganda science that conventional religion becomes the opiate of the masses. I had a psychology teacher that used to say that. Now, he was very irreverent and had no he I believe he was atheist, and so he loved saying that. But it is true. It holds the population intact. Without religion, the carnal would take over. So these big churches are necessary because they present a platform and a stepping stone for the mysteries. They bring in the archetypes, they're flawed. I don't mean to say that in an arrogant way, but they're missing information. Um, and they judge harshly and they war with each other. So Magdalene must unite with the Christos to reclaim her virgin Sophia body, the immortal body, the female immortal body. Remember, we work with the feminine light body. All of this work here, light body yoga, light body woman, it's about understand the female side of the body of light. Okay, and that was all received in dreams in the most crazy way. Magdalene in the desert, a woman in the Vitruvian, um, as a pentagram. This was back in 2002, 2003. Okay, she must unite to the immortal body of light. This is activated in the field of divine love, the inner mystery school of divine love. We have a program that launched in 2015 called the Inner Mystery School of Divine Love. It's in the school, it's in the 1 year school. Think about that if you're interested. We abandoned Magdalene for the celibate priest. Again, no, I don't mean any no disrespect, to take her place. I did a video about how the eunuchs betray the holy feminine for their own power and comfort. That was in the feminine Mars mysteries last fall. Maybe I can find a clip from that about China and what happened in China in the emperor's forbidden city. It was the eunuchs that were put in charge of the bondage of the female consorts because they were given everything. They gave up everything to be given a certain kind of material status, and then they became the keepers of the feminine. Check that archetype out. When the men lose their force, when they drop out, when they quit caring, when they quit engaging in love and falling in love, when they quit building their own mini empires with their families or their businesses, and I'm talking about with integrity and light and in union with the sun, the feminine is completely, usurped and even misused by them. Those who drop out end up misusing the feminine, and in some cases wanting to become the feminine because it feels like an easier path. Okay. Their lust and pleasure derive from having power over others, being right and not having any clue to the wisdom of Sophia and what that really means. Today, there are Okay, I talked about the attack on paganism. Obviously, there's some new age paganism there's a lot of shadow side of paganism. Paganism was responsible for spreading the lower fire around the planet when it went all the way to the extreme, for sure. But real paganism is the Magdalene teachings. It's the teachings of the indigenous people. It's the true teachings of how to nurture the crops and grow and replenish the soil. Those are from the indigenous people. They have been here since the beginning. These are the teachings that are connected to the feminine. They held the beginnings of the feminine mysteries. And we have everything we need. Technology is beautiful, but we need to not abandon the ways of the earth. And the pagans that originally understood how the sun is in matter and the Christ mysteries and the earlier iterations of them, those are absolutely connected to Magdalene. In fact, Magdalene was turned into an archetype of three different women. Okay. All right. Okay. So this was from an article. I can't remember where I got this. It was called I think it's called I'm gonna see if I can see a name on this. I pasted this in just one moment because there's a lot of good teachings in here. It talks about Magdalene is there put it this way, there is a Magdalene article that's not very good in Newsweek. I read it, I looked at it recently, and it's just so it's not it's there's no goods in it. Okay. So I'm just gonna say some of this. This is an article called Jesus and Mary Magdalene, the Sacred Marriage in Gnosticism. The astonishing success okay, wait. Okay, this is about all right. Okay, the ancient pagan mystery schools of Alexandria, Egypt, Kabbalah, Qumran all honored sacred relationships. Let me say that again. The ancient pagan mystery schools, mystery schools in Alexandria, Egypt, out of the Kabbalah and Qumran, all honored sacred relationships. You might think of the Essenes and the Gnostics. Now, there was many different streams of Essenes and Gnostics, but there were the genuine that held the teachings of Mary Magdalene and Christ. The source of the union of the male and female to open the gates of initiation was considered the holy of holies, the source of life itself. Anyone who thinks this is a mundane or average everyday thing has not experienced what this really means. This is so profound. And to have this siphoned off, picked off for a lower technology is a travesty. We need to remember the true wisdom. The female was the holy grail to receive the forces of the Christ. You know, there's the esoteric and the energetic spermatoza, and then the genuine seed, the genetic blueprint that comes from the male. But my work, my first 10 years was solid straight fertility. I taught something called Art of Fertility, and I came in to live the fertility mysteries. The female, the female genetic material is profoundly connected to the female immortal body and the cosmic core code of Sophia. And so as a woman, when you begin to understand what you're working with, of course, you have to go through the initiations, you have to purify, you have to have enough consciousness and frequency to even hold it, which is rare at this time for this level. We work with the 13 realms of Eve. You're working with the law of 13, which is the law that governs art of the feminine and divine feminine Kabbalah. It's the female tree of life. That's what the whole magnum opus of this work is. The Roman Empire had female slavery where the woman had to be chaste. I think I wrote this, had to be chaste and to think like the Virgin Mary, and the man could do as he pleased. A Vestal virgin was punished with a horrific death if she broke her vows of celibacy. And they didn't choose this path, they were given through their parents. Magdalene is the knowledge and the true female gnosis. She is the wisdom of Sophia incarnate, the feminine alchemy incarnate, and she is the holy bride of the Christ and the mother of the sixth race. She came to birth the sixth race. Now, this work at Art of the Feminine, the collective that we work with is called the Magdalene Magi. And they have brought forth, and it's a lineage I'm connected to, these 13 streams and given the whole template. Okay. So I'll just read this. This is right out of the article. The astonishing success of Dan Brown's best-selling book, The Da Vinci Code, and the radical overreaction by the Orthodox and fundamentalist forms of Christianity is revealing. Obviously, its subject strikes a powerful chord in our psyche. There's something that says there's nothing as powerful as an idea whose time has come. When the forces come together in time and space, and the word is spoken, and the creative imagination teaches through story and myth, film, novels, it is tremendously powerful. That art, I cannot say enough, is direct esoteric platform of the goddess. We have too many teachings to get into now, but in Light Body Yoga, we have a platform called Light Body Artist, where we work with the sacred union for those who are receiving art so that they can learn how to channel the streams. This is part of Light Body Yoga, the streams of the tree of life in their art. It is the only kind of art that will exist in the new world. Or I shouldn't say only, that's too extreme. The artist will crave the real wisdom. That's why you see a lot of artists doing tarot decks, and they're dabbling and looking. A lot of them are also doing a lot of the medicines and taking it into realms that can assist, but we have to be very, very discerning, very discerning. Um, I'm talking about the relationship with the plants. There's some really high wisdom around that I have and have received. But artists are gonna play a profound role. It's like the Renaissance all over again. The artist, this realm, though, if you're a female and you're an artist, and I'm so blessed to have a lot of female artists here, this is your time. This is your time. If you make music, if you paint, if you teach, if you write, do this work. Learn holy descent. Learn the divine feminine esoteric system, and we be a walking, living, breathing book of knowledge. Carry the divine frequency and permeate it with your work. Let me tell you, when you go to the museum, I lived in New York City for many, many years and lived in the museums. You just go all the time and you stand before genuine art. You're there's a silence that comes over you. Because the artist, they're not all perfect, and that was that was that time. We're channeling higher forces. They were surrounded by various angelic hierarchies that work with certain streams, certain planets, certain spheres on the tree of life, and there was a part of them that was sacrificing to receive that and to give us the visual archetypes and images that activate the divine feminine. I will say I stood before this painting in the Uffizi in Italy, around all the Botticelli, and I was taken there without knowing. I didn't plan to go there, but as my work began, I found myself standing there wondering who crafted it that I would stand before these paintings, and that's where I actually bought that. I bought that there, and, I have a few others because she was speaking to me through that work. Do you understand? Art is alive. It holds a book of the Akashic record. There are symbolism and codes buried in art. Make art that is living and that makes it to the higher Akashic record. The lower art will just be regenerated and tossed into the flames. The higher art, for all those who are here who are artists, many of you, it will live forever. It has its own immortal body. The archetypes of the masters live on. There are museums and halls in the Akashic records that hold the art of all times, and you can visit them. And let me tell you, you will see things that you never even dreamed possible. Oh, and we're entering a new stage where that's going to happen more and more. Okay. All right. What else was okay? Oh, Magdalene. Okay. Oh, I wanted to say about the Da Vinci Code. So that came out when I was pregnant with my son. It was so crazy because I had been walked with the feminine fertility rituals. I had been prepared since 1992. I conceived my son in 2004. He was born in 2005. So while I was pregnant with him, I watched the movie, I think the Da Vinci or no, I think I read the book at that time. I can't remember when I read it. I had already created Light Body Yoga and was already teaching the divine feminine, but I was pregnant with my son. And reading it was so crazy because I had the baby in my womb was vibrating at that, at a level that knew this wisdom and had come in for it as well. He's part of the mysteries. So I'm not saying that everything in the Da Vinci Code is right, but let me tell you, the actors who played it, especially the main one, got taken out for years and years to come. You don't cross the official narrative without punishment. And that goes for all of us. Like, He was punished in ways that are, it was so amazing to watch. It was because of that. So, um it's not that everything is right in that movie, and it's not that I mean, Dan Brown now is couldn't be more the last time I saw him in an interview, he's way into AI and transhumanism. He's a transhumanist. So, he channeled in that Da Vinci Code book by doing research and said he became a believer. He said he started out doing the book and he was like, "No, no, this is a good story." He said by the time he got to the end of it, he was like, "This is all real." And, because people asked him and he was like, "No, no," and the guy is not he's atheistic and he's a transhumanist, but he wrote this, and he said he was a believer in the end. So, what happens here is myth and legend and storytelling brings into 3D. It activates the imagination of the collective, and when that imagination strikes a chord in the heart, we know it. When so many hundreds of millions of people were like, "We've been waiting for this." We know it. The goddess cannot be stopped. She cannot be stopped. Now there are a couple things in it that I know firsthand that are not correct, but the overall message that Magdalene was covered up is real. I mentioned a couple years ago that I went through the whole canon and the magisterium in the church and went through the whole reading of it and understanding it. And I said that the specific thing that really jumped out at me, I was raised Catholic. And so recently, it was a few years ago, 2 or 3 years ago, I went through the whole canon, the whole thing. I wanted to know exactly what was in it. And I went through the magisterium and the forming of it. When it was at the part where they were going through the oral and written tradition, and I didn't even know that was coming. They talk about it, how they did it, how they discerned, how they plucked the manuscripts and what would be used and what would be discarded. Everything in my body, all of the archetypes that work with me came in. All of the 13 realms of Eve, I had already received all of this, were there with me. It was like a flame saying, "Bear witness to this." It's archetypal, or you can see it as literal. The literal teachings predate that time. And I'm not talking about the Eleusinian mysteries or the Egyptian mysteries. I'm talking about the Christ Sophia mysteries of Magdalene and Christ. They were already there. There were certain sects of Essenes and certain Greeks, the Therapeutae, that already had the Gospels. There's one more story I have to tell really quick. Vivekananda, the sage from the East, he was a true sage. I have his books here. In fact, I kept one of them. When I moved, I got rid of 500 books, but I kept one of his books because it's all about the Divine Mother. He was a true sage. He had cities, he had powers, and he's so sacred. His work is really sacred when you read his work. He was a sage from the East, I believe India, but he was also a worshiper of Christ. Now, this is going back maybe 100 years or more. I can't remember. So I'm sorry I don't have the exact date, but it's Swami Vivekananda. I believe it's Vivekananda. He was a worshiper of Christ, like the Christ Jesus. So even though he taught his whole tradition was yoga and tantra of the East, as many sages do, he worshiped the figure of the Christ as a true master, even though it wasn't his religion, and he had done so most of his life. And he had made it his mission to learn as much as he could about the origins. And this was back before there was obviously the internet and social media. And this is back when you had to go to certain places and go in the old libraries and dig up an old book or get permission from the person who owned a couple of these old, artifacts and relics that you had to. And because he's privileged, he was an elite class because he was truly at the level of master teacher and recognized by many, many people around globally. He was on his ship. Okay, so this is how the story goes. You can Google this, it'll come up. I mean, I've known about it for a long time, but there's various versions of the story. He was a devout follower of Christ, but he was in the waters. He was on a ship sailing somewhere down in, the Mediterranean, and I forget which sea, but it was off like Greece. Yes, okay. So he was sleeping and he had a vision. I can't tell this detail the story, but it goes like this. In his vision, sleeping, a man appeared to him in the old garb of what we would think of as either the Essenes or the Therapeutae, and said to him, and now I can't remember which island. Was it Crete? I can't remember which Greek island. He said, I am of the original Christ stream and the original Christianity. And he said, go to this island and you will know what to look for. So it was something like that. And he said, I am, and he said his lineage, but he had on the garb of that lineage. And so what happened was then when Vivekananda woke up, I hope I'm getting the names right. He went to the captain of the ship. He was startled by this dream. And he was apparently a deep dreamer, but it shook him because of his devout following of the Christ and the whole thing. And it was also such a real vision. And he asked the captain, where are we? And the captain said, we are getting ready to go enter the port at, and whichever island it was, he said, at this island. And he was blown away because he was used to servants and people taking care of him. He had no idea where they were in their journey. He had a captain of a ship and his servants tending to all the details. But he wanted to know where they were, and they were going to the island that he had been shown in his dream. So what happened was, I don't want to be controversial here, but he shifted his view entirely after the whole experience and said he had found out the origins of many of the things that he had studied. And so we know through our work of the various factions of the Essenes and the Gnostics, and I'm talking the ones that held the real wisdom, and they are a part of these groups that date back Alexandria and even before into Egypt, but very alive at the time before the time of Christ was actually recorded. And we know that they had these gospels, and they had the gospels about the man. I'm not talking about the ancient Greek or Egyptian mysteries. I'm talking about specifically what would be the Messiah or the savior of that lineage, which was Kabbalistic. It was part of the Western mysteries, and in a different form, a different iteration. He said he changed his perspective because he understood. And so what I want to say about that is this. Because religion is the opiate of the masses, it's a desired tool for control. We see what's happening now with the merging of Silicon Valley with some of the big religions. The AI technology and the surveillance will be a way to also control what is in ChatGPT or any other of these. We're not going the full-blown doomsday conspiracy route. No, 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 no. We know this is a time of AI. We know this is the time of technology. It's Uranus. It's Aquarius. It's the age of Aquarius, full-blown ruled by a technology. But keep your mind open. Keep your mind open. This has been my work my entire life and through this stream. Understand how the feminine, distorted just a little bit, removes half of the wisdom. It just wipes it out. And if you cannot question that, you can still live a very pure life of devotion and even ascend at certain levels. And I have the most holy people in my life, in my family, who are full blown, say the rosary every day. My mother says the rosary every day. My grandmother said the rosary her whole life. I say the rosary. I posted a clip about the rosary, but just know there's some missing information. And we're not going to say what that information is, but that's why the Da Vinci Code was so huge. That's why it was so attacked, because when it awakens the archetypes in your heart, there's no shutting Pandora's box. Can it awaken the wrong one? Yes, but the soul knows. The deep, deep feminine knows. So ask yourself to say, you just know. Now, it's different than knowing in a conspiracy where you're like, oh yeah, that's happening. That's different. There is an opening of the potential of the goddess that is just, it's palpable. And so that was the beginning of that came off the back of many others' work as well. Again, we're not saying that's all correct, but it's close. There's some wisdom in it for sure. So, okay. Let me see where else we want to go. I think we're getting ready to close out for this first. This is the Holy Womanhood Podcast, Season 2, the Magdalene Mysteries 3. Let me see. Oh, the Virgin. Let's talk about the Virgin a little bit. The term virgin is used for the highest female initiate, and it's the feminine who has done the alchemy and is capable of giving birth to the Christ, or a version of it, meaning the advanced energetic codes. So that can happen through the heart. The heart is ruled by the goddess and the female. And I've never seen a male master to this day that holds the feminine mysteries. The feminine and the wisdom is Sophia is not written knowledge. It's not even necessarily structures and systems, because all of those can be misinterpreted and they change over time. They morph, which is how the archetypes work through consciousness. They're meant to. But the feminine mysteries that purify the heart and give us the respect and the understanding of what happens when people love each other, and how the female must be respected. She must respect herself. When a woman changes immediately, when she starts to value and have worth, there's two parts of the stream. One part is that she knows the wisdom and she can't be fooled. That's a very dangerous. When woman activates, she knows the truth, and that's a dangerous woman. But also, she begins to generate through her feeling force the new world. And it's magnetic. It calls people in. Just one moment. Okay, so we're saying that women need to. What I invite you in Holy Womanhood, this is about understand your power. Work silently, but work with integrity, and work ferociously like the lion. Be the archetype of strength, the virginal goddess walking with the deepest power of Lilith. That's what that is. That's Lilith and Eve. And understand that this path never ends, and it's real, and there's real work. You can't bypass it. It's real. It's real as can be. It's real as the food you have to eat to stay alive. You have to eat food to stay alive. It's that real. It's necessary. So even though this world is we're all love and we're all the divine, obviously, yes, we are. But there's real frequencies and there's real parts of the process that we have to get to. In the average population, the exoteric teachings aren't super worried about that. They're more worried about going to heaven, and also need to live by the forgive your neighbor, love your neighbor as yourself, and live by the law of love. The Christ teachings are absolutely the highest. But the wisdom, which is more discerning, more advanced, and more about the mysteries, is the female. And so, because the collective Eve has to be regenerated, because she's the one that's gonna birth the new earth. I'm gonna look really quickly. It also the church and the original, they didn't want woman to have so much sovereignty, because woman, there was some of that was meant to be, meaning like you had to bring people into a tight archetype to get it grow it, and that was meant to be. It had to be pretty tight, where there were rules and laws and boundaries you couldn't break. But also the feminine was just too magical. Like the feminine was seen as a threat, because once people get their hands on that, and there was also the weaning off of the old style of paganism. There was a lot going on there. We could go on and on and on. But it was a threat to the church fathers' power, and it was a threat to the empire. The empire. What are we dealing with now on our planet? Empire after empire after empire. What is happening in our world right now? The old Roman Empire, we call it the return of the Atlantean Roman Empire. Strength and might without wisdom and without love. Remember, in this era, you have to have love, but it has to be married to wisdom. So I'm going to start to close out. This is a time of the return of the divine feminine initiates. It is the feminine that regulates earth. It is the feminine that brings in the weather. It is the feminine that regulates crops and growth and abundance. It can do more for us than any tech. I'm trying to think of an example. I mean, the small examples are so real. Just the mother communicating with the child in her womb is a literal miracle. The kinds of alchemy that happen in that process. So, okay. All right. I think I have one more. Oh, let me just see. Yeah, Gnostic Christianity. Again, there are the Gnostic Gospels. There's a lot of stuff that you have to sift through. And just because someone's talking about Gnosticism or doesn't mean they have the teachings, but it's very real. And okay, I'm gonna leave that at that. Oh gosh, there was a teaching about when this Pope did that. Let me see if I have that. I might have, oh my gosh, I think I opened the wrong field. So we have more to talk about Magdalene. It actually shows the Pope that made her a prostitute. And it is known that she was after a prostitute that was an archetype, I believe, in Egypt. So, yes, again, it was real and it happened. And so we'll talk about that a little bit more in the next video. Let me see if there's anything I want to say to close out. Um, any questions? I will look down. Okay. Oh, yes. These are some of the topics we'll be talking about: the usurping of the feminine force, the hijacking of the goddess religion and the goddess energy, suppressing the feminine Christ, weaponizing the goddess, the materialistic science, and the spiritual science. There are two kinds of science. There's temporal science and spiritual science. This is a divine feminine spiritual science. They need each other. The physical is very important, but to get locked into the temporal science without the heart energy, it just defeats. Eventually, it destroys itself. You get so addicted to it and reliant upon the heart atrophies. We have to have scientists that are in the heart, that are spiritual, that are initiates. This is the key. That's what the Divine Feminine Wisdom School was founded, by the way, to bring women in to really become initiates so that you hold this wisdom. It's night and day. When you speak it, your world transforms before you. We need to talk about the ability to project the image that comes from the new feminine mothers and initiates. We project the image of the divine into the world. And we're also going to learn about manifesting, because there's empty karmic manifesting that's only connected to the lower moon realms. But we're into manifesting from the sun, the solar feminine, Leo. We're into using the power of the sun through the heart to create real wealth and abundance from the desire body that's balanced, that's balancing Lilith and Eve, not just from I want, but from I want, I serve. I want, I serve. For everything I want, I give service. And when the lessons come along sometimes and strip us, we bow humbly and we say, so be it. Thank you for this lesson. And we keep going. So there's times when we get stripped, and that's when we have the strength. The universe will teach us that way to keep going. There are times when there's a saying that karma is a dish best served cold. There are times when we've forgotten about something from the past, and all of a sudden the divine decides to drop the sword, or to drop the hammer of divine justice, and we lose something. We have to understand what that looks like, be humble, and then keep going, if that makes sense. Okay. All right. I think we're good. I know there's going to be so many more things that I see. Let me just see. Again, I said the stages of the Temple of Isis. I talked about that initiation, I think, in the last video. Okay. All right. I think I'm good for now. Okay. I'm going to just take a moment and look down. And all right. The eternal feminine draws us on. Goethe. Yes. Goethe. Nice. Okay. Faust. Absolutely. Okay. Oh, thank you for sharing that. So many good quotes there. Yeah. Okay, Lisa, so nice to see you. Nice to see everybody. Wesley, don't recognize you. Nice to see. Oh, a lot of comments. I haven't read those. Okay, Sharon, Maceo, Shez. So nice to see you, Charlotte and Shez and Lisa and Jax and Shez. Okay, Nasreen and Leanne, so many, and Brienne. Tell your friends about this. We'll be back here next week. We're going to start with live streams because I think it's important. They won't all be this long, but it's important to show up. And it's important to create a community and to be a stream of the genuine esoteric wisdom that's been lived and digested, and to share it and to grow it, to make this emanation into the world so that we can all know that we're on the right path and we're moving through this together, and we can be a beacon of light for the world. The world needs, we don't have to fight the world. We don't have to say we're victims of all this stuff out there. We just carry it very proudly and very honored to have the privilege. First of all, for me to speak these words to you is beyond anything. It's what I thank God for every day. To feel that stream come through is the highest gift my body could receive in this lifetime. It's the highest alchemy. As we become currents of the wisdom, we make fast, rapid progress in the underworld because the power of the word is so great. And when we connect it to others through the heart and through wisdom, it's one of the quickest ways to heal and to move the world forward. So I just want to say thank you. Be part of our community. I will be opening Divine Feminine Wisdom School, which is a year-long deep study in the feminine esoteric system. If you understand the Western mysteries, this is Kabbalah, Tarot. This is not connected to a religion. It is the religion of her and the divine feminine, truly. But this is real stuff. And once you get a taste for it, you can't stop. I'm telling you, I don't know anywhere else that this is happening like this. I just don't. I don't know. It's very, very, very rare, but this is a place you come to study. If you're interested, that's coming soon for the fall in 2025. So let's do Christ Sophia in the 7 directions and we'll close out. Thank you for being here. Please make sure to subscribe and give the video a thumbs up and come back and comment. Your comments help the algorithm, and it also it's a gift to my heart as well to see people here. And make sure to let people know about the Holy Womanhood Podcast, men and women. We'll have some episodes that are really about geared to the masculine and less, um, hyper focused on the feminine, and you'll know when those are. And then some are going to be really astrological because we follow what's coming now, the eclipse season in Virgo and in Pisces, huge, huge, starting next week. Okay. We say, Christ, Sophia, before me. Christ, Sophia, behind me. Christ, Sophia, at my left. Christ, Sophia, at my right. Christ, Sophia, above me. Christ, Sophia, below me. Christ, Sophia, unto me. And take a deep breath in. And hold, suspend your breath just for a moment and imagine the solar feminine heart energy, all our gratitude. I express gratitude to the goddess and the 13 realms of Eve's holy tree of life for being here today with us to guide us, to protect us, and to help share the wisdom. And it is with tremendous gratitude that we exhale our breath out. Grateful for every breath we take in this 3D body. We say, I am, I am, I know I am, I am, I am, I know I am. Peace and love to all of you on this Virgo new moon. This is a breathtaking energy. And I want to remind you also, one of the things we specialize here is the actual codes. We work with the spiritual alphabet, we work with the tree, the correspondences, and the tarot on levels that I've never quite seen before. They were actually initiated and brought in through here. So that will be another huge part of what is integrated into this podcast. You will learn and your heart will begin to resonate with it and understand that it is truly a living knowledge, a living word, and a living lineage. And so until we meet again next week, I bow to you with amen, amen, amen. I send you off with deep love. If there's any last thing you want to say, I'm looking right now. Thank you. Thank you, Shez. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you, Rachel. So nice to see you. Oh my gosh, I've had the most amazing communications with people lately. I bow to all of you. I can really say that the people who come in this community make my heart explode. I recognize you and I see you, so thank you. Until we meet again. All right. Many blessings.